Good evening. Welcome to Examining Fictional Heroes and the Authors Behind Them. We'll continue tonight with the Gordon story, Sons of the Hawk, by Robert E. Howard. When we were last in this story, we saw how Gordon freed Brent and attempted to use the mob to set Alafdal Khan on the throne, and how the mob turned on them when they found out that Shurku was actually Gordon. In the ensuing riot, Gordon becomes separated from Alafdal and his men, who get captured while Gordon escapes. He comes back in an attempt to free them from the dungeon. "Can you all walk?" rapped Gordon. "Good. We'll have to pull out afoot. I couldn't arrange for horses." Alafdal looked at him dully. "Why should I go?" he muttered. "Yesterday I had wealth and power. Now I am a penniless vagabond. If I leave Rub al-Harami, the Emir will cut off my head. It was an ill day I met you, El-Barak. You made a tool of me for your intrigues." "So I did," Alafdal Khan. Gordon faced him squarely. "But I would have made you Emir in good truth. The dice have fallen against us, but our lives remain. And a bold man can rebuild his fortune. I promise you that if we escape, the Emir will pardon you and these men." "His word is not wind," urged Achmet. "He has come to aid us when he might have escaped alone. Take heart, my lord." So eventually they make it outside the wall, having armed themselves along the way. They were free, armed, and outside the Devil's City, but they were afoot, and the passes were closed against them. Without a word, they filed after Gordon across the shadowed plain. In a few miles, they come across a peasant hut. There they acquire food and horses, none of which are the best because the man is a peasant. In the darkness of the small hours, they rode up the pathless gorge, which led into the trackless hills. Hassan was insistent on cutting the throats of the entire peasant family, but Gordon vetoed him. "Yes, I know he'll head for the city to betray us as soon as we get out of sight. But he'll have to go on foot, and we'll lose ourselves in the hills before he gets there. There are men trained like bloodhounds in Rub al-Harami," said Achmet. "They can track a wolf over bare rock." As they ride on, Brent begins to study Gordon. There was nothing in Gordon's manner by which he could recognize Shurku the Kurd. Gone was the Kurdish accent, the boyish, reckless, merry-mad swagger, the peacock vanity of dress, even the wide-legged horseman's stance. The real Gordon was almost a direct antithesis of the role he had assumed. In place of the strutting, gaudily clad braggart youth, there was a direct, hard-eyed man who wasted no words and about whom there was no trace of egotism or braggadocio. There was nothing of the Oriental about his countenance now, and Brent knew that the mustache alone had not accounted for the perfection of his disguise. That disguise had not depended on any mechanical device. It had been a perfection of mimicry. But if not garrulous, Gordon did not prove taciturn when Brent began to ask questions. "I was on another trail when I left Kabul," he said. "No need to take up your time with that now. I knew the Black Tigers had a new Emmer, but didn't know it was Jakrovich, of course. I'd never bothered to investigate the Black Tigers. Didn't consider them important. I left Kabul alone and picked up half a dozen of Fritty friends on the way. I became a Kurd after I was well on my road. That's why you lost my trail. None knew me except my Fritties. But before I completed my mission, word came through the hills that a Ferengi with an escort of Kabuli was looking for me. News travels fast and far through the tribes. I rode back looking for you and finally sighted you as a prisoner. I didn't know who'd captured you, but as I saw there were too many for us to fight, I went down to parley. As soon as I saw Muhammad Ez-Zahir, I guessed who they were, and told them that lie about being lost in the hills and wanting to get to Rub el-Harami. I signaled my men. You saw them. They were the men who fired on us as we were coming into the valley. But you shot one of them. I shot over their heads, just as they purposely missed us. My shots, 1, pause, and then 3 in succession, were a signal that I was going on with the troop, and for them to return to our rendezvous and wait for me. When one fell forward on his horse, it was a signal that they understood. We have an elaborate code of signals of all kinds. I intended trying to get you away that night, but when you gave me Stockton's message, it changed the situation. If the new Emmer was Jakrovich, I knew what it meant. Imagine India under the rule of a swine like Jakrovich. I knew that Jakrovich was after the gold in Shaitan's cave. It couldn't be anything else. Oh yes, I knew the custom of offering gold each year to the devil. Stockton and I had discussed the peril of the Peace of Asia if a white adventurer ever got his hands on it. So I knew I'd have to go to Rub el-Harami. I didn't dare tell you who I was. Too many men were spying around all the time. When I got to the city, fate put a Lafdal Khan in my hands. A true Muslim Emir is no peril to the Indian Empire. A real Oriental wouldn't touch Shaitan's gold to save his life. I meant to make a Lafdal Emir. I had to tell him who I was before he'd believe I had a chance of doing it. I didn't premeditatedly precipitate that riot in the Suck. I simply took advantage of it. I wanted to get you safely out of Jakovich's hands before I started anything. So I persuaded a Lafdal Khan that we needed you in our plot, and he put up the money to buy you. Then during the auction, Jakrovich lost his head and played into my hands. Everything would have worked perfectly if it hadn't been for Ali Shah and his man, that Shinwari. It was inevitable that somebody would recognize me sooner or later, but I hoped to destroy Jakrovich, set a Lafdal solidly in power, and have an avenue of escape open for you and me before that happened. At least Jakrovich is dead, said Brent. We didn't fail there, agreed Gordon. Ali Shah is no menace to the world. He won't touch the gold. The organization Jackrovich built up will fall apart, leaving only the comparatively harmless core of the Black Tigers, as it was before his coming. We've drawn their fangs as far as the safety of India is concerned. All that's at stake now are our own lives. But I'll admit, I'm selfish enough to want to preserve them. So, as always, I appreciate you listening to me. If you have any likes, dislikes, comments, suggestions, anything of that nature, I would appreciate hearing them. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.